Hello, citizens of the planet. Welcome back to Monday Musings with Larry Lelli. And excuse my appearance right now. I just got back from riding my bicycle in Central Park at night, which is one of my favorite times to ride in Central Park because there's nobody else in there except for me and some other crazy bike riders. Shh, it's just our little secret, all right? Okay. Anyway, what I'd like to talk about this past week is a gig that I did in a small club and how I had to adapt what I would usually play to make it fit in that space. This was a very small cabaret room, and it's pretty much all acoustic, but we were playing rock and roll songs without a bass player. So I had to, not only did I have to kind of keep my volume down overall and not play perhaps as forcefully as I would have otherwise in a traditional amplified rock and roll situation. But what I also decided to do was I muffled the bass drum a little more than usual to get a little more attack from the beater, and I played actually a little busier on the bass drum than I normally would have to simulate a bass guitar line. So in one way I took stuff away from what I usually did, and in another way I added stuff to what I usually did to compensate for the lack of a bass player, but also to compensate for the necessity to play acoustically without any amplified instruments. And it seemed to go off very well. And these are little tricks that I've learned over the years to do. I almost always have to play to the room. That's what I call playing to the room. And I learned about this when I was still a young kid, and I read about it in a magazine called Modern Drummer, actually. I don't remember who wrote the article or where I started to get this idea, but the writer said, whenever you go to a new venue and you've never played there, or maybe you've played it a million times, just suss out the venue and see what it's like. What are the acoustics like? You can clap your hands a little bit and get an idea of the sound of reverberation of the room itself. Just note the space and how far you are away from the audience, and if you're raised up on stage or if you're down low, everybody's on one level or whatever. All these things come into play. Who's going to be amplified, who isn't, who's going to need to hear what and how and all that kind of stuff, and just suss it out. And I play almost every gig very differently. The one consistent thing that I try to do is always play musically, no matter what I'm doing. But anyway, that's just a little bit into what I had to do for that particular gig this past week. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.